Hello, Sara Dalrymple. How are you?
I am very well. Hello, Alison. Lovely to be here.
Great to have you here. And just in case anybody's landed on this going, what the hell's going on? What I'm doing is having a LinkedIn live conversation with all 22 of the Practical Inspiration authors shortlisted in this year's Business Book Awards. And Sara, brilliantly, is the author of More Sales, Please. Oh, hello. Right.
A very decorated More Sales.
It's highly decorated, yeah. So first of all, what's going on there?
What's going on here is I like to be able to remember the choice pieces. So when I'm giving workshops or I want to reference back a certain contributor, I know exactly what's going on. So I like to have lots of highlighted sections, and I'm always encouraging readers to highlight the bits so that they can, draw their attention back to what they want to remember afterwards. And this is my master copy, so I hope I never lose it.
I love that. We used to have sort of shelf copies, in traditional publishing, you'd have that, and that's where you'd mark all the corrections and then you'd sort of collate them all together. But this is the author copy, which is basically sort of a reference book as much as anything, isn't it?
Because, often I'll be able to then say, if you reach for your copies, and then in chapter 7, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about here. So it just is a much more interactive way of doing workshops. I prefer it, and I think the audience like it more too. So
I love that. And if you had any doubt whether this was worth reading, the number of highlighted passages in there should give you some reassurance.
I should have just given out highlighters with every copy, to be honest. I'm always saying we need to be highlighting these books. I'm not passionate about my book. I know some people don't like any corners turned down. It could never be me.
Yeah, a book is to be customised. I mean, that's not a book you're going to give away to a charity shop, though, to be fair, isn't it?
I live in fear of a day that I might walk past a charity shop and see it in there, but I guess...
Well, you'll know you've made it at that day. Yeah, it's a good thing. But Sara, tell us why you wrote this book. What's it all about? Who's it for? What's it going to do for them?
It's a book about sustaining your business, basically. It's a book about sales, which is, for me, like the central point. There are so many books out there about marketing and about promoting yourself and about social media. But when I first started in business, certainly the only sales book I could find was written, for a really corporate audience, not for a small business crowd. So, a lot of this stuff I had to learn on the fly, especially with social media, doing what it does. It's really important to me that if you're a small business owner, or if you're thinking about being a small business owner, you are armed with the foundational kind of bits of information that are going to help you actually make money and sustain your business and make sure it lasts, the long term. And also that if you're using social media to promote your business, you're doing it in, no more than a few minutes a day. Social media can be a blessing and a curse. It can be a real snake.
No end to it.
I am extremely here for using it productively as a business tool. We're not trying to be influencers. We're not trying to be, all singing, all dancing types. We're here for using it as a business tool. So this is my guide of how to do that and to do it and then get off.
And you also talk in the book, don't you, about that kind of the emotional content behind that word sales and how frightened we are of it and how icky it seems. And if you ain't got sales, you ain't got a business, right?
Exactly. And the stereotypes that we've all seen and witnessed firsthand and have had kind of drummed into us over decades, they have, they've really got us in a chokehold a lot of the time. And, I would say 99% of business owners don't come into business wanting to be salespeople necessarily, but that's exactly what we are. But the really good news is that in the small business community, in the creative business community, in the online business community, we don't have to be selling any of those stereotypes. We get to do it our way. So actually, there's never really been a better time, I should say, to be a salesperson and to really embrace doing it in a way that doesn't feel icky, doesn't feel sleazy. We all know what it feels like being sold to, and it doesn't feel nice. It doesn't feel good. So we get to give our clients, our audience, a much lovelier, altogether more service-based experience that actually helps them to buy what they want when they want. They don't need us to tell them that they've got to buy things now in this moment, because they can buy whatever they want whenever they want now. We can, but in that sense, there's been a real shift. Buyers have got all the power now. They're not beholden to when the shop is open or what information they can see in their local area. you can access whatever you want online pretty much whenever you want to kind of navigate that system. So our job as salespeople is really to become really good communicators of what we're doing and why we're doing it, so that buyers can be really empowered and know that they're buying what they want and getting the experience that they're hoping for, rather than a sort of sleazy, icky, nasty something else.
And actually that whole shift in sales generally has really played into small business hands, hasn't it? Because even the biggest companies with the biggest sales teams are really embracing relational selling, conversational selling, because all the traditional stuff about, feature-led selling is kind of irrelevant now. You can search for it through
there's
Google.
no one moment, there's no one pitch, there's no like, oh, you've failed because it's not happened in this moment. It's none of those things. It's human. It's about connecting with real people over real things and being able to give real experiences that actually feel really good on both sides.
And it's probably self-evident, Sarah, but humour me. Why does it matter that small business owners get comfortable with selling?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll try and keep it brief. But, as I've said, the vast majority of us haven't grown up being, either trained in marketing or selling or promoting ourselves. I'm, of an age where I didn't even have the internet in my house until I was through my A-levels, to be honest. So it's very new, this idea of being able to promote ourselves online, talk about what we do, and, receive clients and fill our businesses up in it without having to kind of do a big pitch isn't something that most of us have any idea, had the foggiest how to do until we kind of got into it in real time. And we haven't got a business if we haven't got sales coming in. So we have to kind of learn as we go and learn on the job. Otherwise, we are kind of defaulting to either the horrible stereotypes that we don't really want to have anything to do with, because that's all we kind of know and that's what we think we should be doing, which I am absolutely not an advocate for. Or even worse, and this is what I see an awful lot of in my business, is we just don't do it at all. And we kind of think, well,
just
enough, if I've written this book and it's, I've put everything I've got into it, if it's good enough, people will find it and people will buy it, which just breaks my heart, because obviously that just isn't how things work.
It'd be lovely if things worked that way.
It'd be amazing, because we wouldn't be talking about this now, would we? Because it would just be like, look at all those lovely books behind Alison, just pick one. Right. But as buyers, we're more sophisticated than that. We want to know what's inside each one, and we want to see that you're sure of what you're talking about. We want to feel that we're going to have a really good experience together, or that we're going to get what we want. So when we think about why this stuff matters, it's really about participation and advocating for the thing that you've worked so hard on, or your life's work, all the skills that you've got. They don't sell themselves. They haven't got their own voice. We have to do that part, and that's really what I mean when I say selling. It's not you've got to buy this right now. It's more like, let me tell you why what's in here can actually help you.
Yeah. Love that. And I think it is a really important book, because so many small business owners have got great products, they've got great ideas, but they just, really bad at selling, they don't want to do it. So
and then their businesses are failing, and they're telling themselves it's because they're no good at it, or they're not doing it right, and that is just one of the biggest lies out there, because it's never that. It's just, we haven't done this before, we have to learn, and then we get to do it our way.
Yeah. And actually, and this really comes across in the book, when you do learn your way and you learn that sort of conversational sense and relational thing, it just actually becomes really good fun. It doesn't feel like you're selling. It feels like you're just talking to people.
Talking about the thing that you love so much, you built your business around it. So it's actually not doing anything other than just telling people what you do. So I sometimes say, never mind selling, let's just talk about telling, because that's really what it is.
Love it. And Sarah, tell me about that moment when you heard or saw. How did you discover that you'd been shortlisted?
That magical moment. I was so upset to miss the event in person, but I was away for the holidays in Spain, and I was sharing a room with my youngest, who was already nearly asleep, just getting tucked up, and I was like trying to explain to him, I'm just going to get on this live quickly because I just want to see, there's this thing happening, and I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just going to look. And we just managed to get on the live to hear my name being read out. And it was quite, I was like, oh, I don't know if they're just reading out the list of everyone that might have been shortlisted, or so we were kind of like wanting to celebrate, but not really. It was really cute though. It was really sweet. When we actually worked it out and we realized that it had been shortlisted, we had a little party of two in our room in Spain, and it was just lovely, 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 really magical. Yeah, it was great.
It took a little while to get back to bedtime, I imagine.
I didn't get to sleep for ages because I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to tell some people, I got to text them, but you know, he went off to sleep and I just had a lovely, silent, you know, little smile celebration.
How lovely. That's so exciting. And you're going to be there, aren't you, on the 10th of September?
I will be there by hook or by crook, and I certainly won't be missing this one because us small business owners, online business owners, we don't get to have in-person parties, celebrations, you know, just be in the room as much as I would like. So I cannot wait. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, especially in your glad rags.
Especially in my glad rags, yeah.
Fabulous. Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing you there. There'll be lots of practical inspiration authors, which is going to be hugely exciting. It's going to be a great night. So in the meantime, congratulations again. Thanks for just telling us a little bit more about the book now. It's really lovely to hear that backstory and everything. And fingers crossed for the 10th of September.
Thank you so much. It's been great chatting.